There's something I'm finding very weird about what's going on today. I talked about this in the most recent edition of the podcast, where Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of politicians put on a garment worn by slavers and reenacted the murder of a black guy. That's really crazy to me. And this, apparently, according to the pictures and the coverage, is going on en masse in a lot of these protests, kneeling in the Church of Social Justice's reasons. John McWhorter says, yeah, all these people, yeah, they're remembering George Floyd, I guess, by sitting in the position of the guy that killed him. That's really weird to me. That's kind of perverse. That's a bit like, if you wanted to remember slavery by, pretending to whip a guy, or if you wanted to remember the civil rights movement by pretending to throw a noose over a tree, it doesn't. No, Catholics do not remember Jesus by making a motion of nailing a guy down to something. That's not what happens. That's not what people do. But we live in interesting times. So in this Reason Magazine article, they talk about how this really has become a religion. Well, statism in general is a religion, we know that. The most dangerous one, in fact. But this, this is out there. And they call it third wave anti-racism, henceforth TWA, calls for people to display their moral worth through opposition to racism. In the wake of the murder of George Floyd, this vision has been increasingly expressed through procedures, routines, and phraseology directly patterned on Abrahamic religion. And I've been more specific. I've said Calvinist, but we'll go through what he's talking about here. He says, if the tension between black people and the cops were resolved, America's race problem would quickly begin dissolving faster than it ever has. But making this happen will require work, as will ending the war on drugs, improving educational opportunities for all disadvantaged black children, and other efforts such as steering more black teenagers to vocational programs, training them for solid careers without 4 years of college. Yeah, that's yet another ramification of this whole thing about, everyone needs to go to college, let's support college, let's get government supporting college. Well, that's probably good for you if you're a white kid from the suburbs, so don't complain about your student loan. What about the ones who don't really have that as an option? The ones from the inner cities, the ones who can't afford it, even with all of the subsidies and everything, if they don't have the grades to make it because the school was terrible or, things like that, and they're not really prepared for the real world. What's wrong with vocational school? What's wrong with trade school? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. And we need skilled machinists and welders and things like that. There's been a dearth of them for like 10, 15 years. So nothing wrong with that. It could be an opportunity, but hey, as long as white people are happy. It says, we must behold scenes like in Bethesda, where protesters kneeled on the pavement in droves, chanting allegiance with upraised hands to a series of anti-white privilege tenets incanted by what a naive anthropologist would recognize as a flock's pastor. Well, yeah, that's religion. Religion is dehumanizing. Religion is, you are horrible because of who you are and how you were born. White people have original sin now. And apparently we have to spend a whole bunch of time apologizing for it. And we have to do it with the kneeling and the genuflecting and the incantations and everything. On a similar occasion, white protesters bowed down in front of black people standing in attendance. In Cary, North Carolina, whites washed black protesters' feet as a symbol of subservience and sympathy. That is... I'm sorry, that's sick. That's it. Not the washing the feet part. I mean, washing feet's okay, but I mean, the whole thing about having to, prostrate ourselves, in front of our new masters or whatever. And elsewhere, when a group of white activists painted whip scars upon themselves in sympathy with Black America's past, many black protesters found it a bit much. Yeah, As most of you know, I'm not really a big fan of TJ, the American Atheist, but I love that one thing he did where he was whipping himself saying, I'm sorry I'm white! I'm sorry I'm male! I'm sorry I'm white! I'm sorry I'm male! Well, I think that's ended up being more prophecy than satire. So, it's crazy. It's what we're coming to. The new faith also manifests itself in objections to what its adherents process as dissent. A friend wrote on Facebook that they agreed with Black Lives Matter, only to have another person, a white one for the record, post this reply. Wait a minute, you agree with them? That implies you get to disagree with them. That's like saying you agree with the law of gravity. You, as a white person, don't get to agree or disagree when black people say something. Saying you agree with them is every bit as arrogant as disputing them. This isn't an intellectual exercise. This is their lives on the line. Yep. Appeal to emotion. Yeah. And remember, that was from another white guy. Yeah. I had to tell you everything you need to know. This objection seems studiously hostile until we compare it to how a devout Christian might feel about someone opining that he agrees with Jesus' teachings, as if the custom were to think one's way through the liturgy in logical fashion and decide what parts of it make sense, rather to suspend logic and have faith. And the religious analogies pile higher by the week. Yep. That's what this is. They're talking about, I'll let you read it, but sacrificial victims, metaphorically speaking, and all of the postures, verbal incantations, things like that. And he says, those of us watching incongruously and needlessly acrid media posts and the yanking down of statues cannot help thinking the real motivator of the TWA posture is a simple joy in indignation and destruction, along with the comforts of group warmth. The white TWA adherent cherishes displaying virtue. The black TWA adherent has fallen for the siren call of the noble victim complex, affording one of the status of a Cassandra, a survivor, even the grantor of absolution, as we see in some of the protest videos. And we've seen this a lot. It's the same trend we've seen in the feminist movement. You know, it's all about being the victim. You know, used to be in the second wave, you know, women were saying, no, we're not victims. We're worthy individuals capable of standing up on our own. Now it's all about, oh, poor me, I'm such a victim, give me money, you know, or whatever. Do what I want or I'll throw a tantrum, and you don't get to argue against me because you're white. He says, in practice, the performance and fury are the main meal, while the mundane but urgent work of changing society seems distinctly underplayed. Well, yeah, because that's difficult. That's hard work. If TWA were really a political program, it would focus much more readily on making change from the grassroots on up. The psychological cleansing would feel like a prelude cherished by a few, but best gotten past as quickly as possible. The idea that political work must be preceded by a massive mental overhaul of the nation is not self-standingly obvious. It is a tragically fragile proposition that reveals TWA as, in essence, not politics, but Sunday school. Yep, it's all about the indoctrination. So without the fever pitch of these voices and the dread they instill in any white person chilled at the possibility of being outed as a racist in today's society, Tina Fey would not have pulled a few episodes of 30 Rock out of streaming because they had blackface depictions. The Dixie Chicks would not have renamed themselves the Chicks. There would still be an awful lot of statues of Confederate racists standing, and Rhode Island would not be excising the word plantation from its name. The TWA message asks whites to look inside themselves to examine the ways they contribute to racism. This is happening to an unprecedented degree. And it's really sad because that accomplishes nothing. It's kind of the things we used to see from the extremists like the Black Panthers, except now it's becoming mainstream. That's really scary. He says, the new line will be that these changes didn't matter because they left structures of society in place. This bait and switch will not be a cynical ploy, but an inevitable outgrowth of the fact that TWA is a matter of ideology and attitude, not progress and pragmatism. Its liturgy requires that America always be a racist snake pit, redeemable only by a mysterious day when the U.S. comes to terms with racism. Just what those terms would be is never specified for a reason, which is that if there really were no racism, the TWA adherents would lose their sense of purpose. How many times have I said it, people? This is the generation raised on participation trophies. Oh, we can't have them win or lose because if they lose, they might feel bad. So they don't learn about winning and losing. They don't have the life lessons learning the value of losing and how losing in many ways can be advantageous, because that's what helps you learn about yourself and grow and become stronger, but also what it means to win. And so they're saying, oh, well, what really matters is how you play the game. Well, that's what they're applying it here. To them, it's not about stomping out racism. If racism were stomped out, then they would have no purpose. No matter how little racism there is in society, it has to be, they can't give up the fight. That's what it is. It's all about the fight to them. It's not about any goal. It's just about the fight. It says, we seek socio-political change, yet we find on the vanguards a contingent who have founded a new religion. They insist hotly that they really are right because racism is bad, isn't it? Now, that's the kind of thing we've heard from Christians. Well, Christianity must be right because murder is wrong, isn't it? That's one of the commandments. Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean the rest of your crap is right. Yeah. So racism is bad. Indeed it is, but it is also bad for increasing numbers of Americans out of fear for their social acceptance in wider society pretend to subscribe to the semi-coherent tenets of an anti-empirical faith, feigning higher wisdom with big words and manipulative phraseology. They see themselves as the heirs of bygone heroes who would actually have been sickened by them. Progressive Americans' task is not to learn charismatic but purposeless self-flagellational routines, but to fight injustices with sense and logic. Only TWA adherents think the two are the same. Thank you, Jacob McWhirter. I don't really know what else there is to add to that. I don't know what these people think they're going to accomplish. I don't know, what their end goal is. I don't even know if they have an end goal in mind. Like I said, I think it's just about the fight with them. As long as they're finding that's their sense of purpose. And that's really, really sad because there are problems that need to be solved. And there are problems that affect all of us, black and white. The problems of police accountability and the war on drugs and things like that. Yeah, that may fall more heavily on the shoulders of blacks. And that's horrible, but it's a problem that affects all of us and we need to be working together to stop it. And this does nothing to accomplish that. So. Okay, thank you for watching. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. As always, share it everywhere to help correct for any shadow banning or anything anyone you think might find this video useful. And please go to donate.bogosity.tv. Give however much or however little you want, and you can also become a regular supporter at Patreon or Subscribestar. Get these videos early. The way I've been doing these, I've just been kind of queuing them up for when I go on vacation. So the people on Patreon and Subscribestar who are regular supporters of me, they've been kind of getting all these just in one fell swoop, and they get to see all the little things I do in between and the editing and everything. They get to see the sausage being made. So okay, you can join up for as little as $1 if you want to see that. But otherwise, thank you for any small amounts that you can give. And above all, thank you for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.